Well, I believe that one of the biggest problems for not only last year but also the years before is the bad representation of the people of Europe. Both domestically, we lack some exceptions, but mostly strong and good leaders in Europe who are willing to tackle issues like immigration, illegal immigration, asylum seekers, the Islamization. Don't forget, we are overcrowded with the Islamic ideology that has nothing to do with liberty or our own Judeo-Christian values that we share. But also when it comes to the energy crisis, the utility bills, the inflation and the price that people pay for their groceries, there is lack of leadership, both domestically, as I said. Most of the nations are not being led by strong leaders, and if they are outcasted by the European Union, which, as my friend from Spain said very rightfully, are totally corrupt themselves, you know.
Ms. von der Leyen, you are corrupt down to the last fiber. It's too late now.
They have been on the moral high ground to criticize leaders. Few of the leaders, like we still have, for instance, in Hungary, Mr. Orbán, for the alleged corruption that they have. And now it proves that they themselves are the most corrupt of all, especially in the social democratical party. So I believe to take back the leadership, and for me personally, my party is the biggest opposition party today. In the polls, we are the strongest today, together with the party of the Prime Minister. We have elections in Holland in March for the provincial, but they elect the Senate. It could turn out that we have new national elections when the outcome is bad for the coalition. And we try to take back the leadership as we are failing it today. I believe that there is an explanation why we face, of course there are, as I said, exceptions, but the majority of the European leaders are weak because they don't acknowledge the importance of a strong nation state. And I believe that every democracy needs a strong nation state, need national sovereignty, need a cultural identity. People have to know who they are and where they belong to. They need to be able to rally around the national flag. We need to be in charge of our own budget, of our own lawmaking, of our own immigration policy. And all that is not the case anymore. We are not in charge on our own front door, who we allow into our nation state or not. We are not. We are in a kind of transfer union where we are not in charge of our own money. The lawmaking process. I'm a lawmaker. More than half of the laws that we have to enact upon are coming from Brussels and not from the capitals anymore. So I believe this is the problem. The definition in the European Union of good leadership is a leader, a prime minister, that has friends within the European Council of Ministers. I mean, that is the definition. Everybody was joking in the past about President Trump, who said America first. Well, I believe that would be the thing to do. Every nation should think about their own nation first. And if they can cooperate with other nations, we don't need a political union because of that. You know, we started the European Union in the 50s. My country was one of the 7 founders of the European Union. It was an economical cooperation without a political union, and this is what we should do. If we want strong leadership, we have to go back to the nation state and be in charge of the most important things that people believe in. Now we are governed by unelected officials like European Commissioner or an institution like the European Parliament that is corrupt and nobody goes to vote for them. In Holland, 20–25%. So take back national sovereignty, our own identity. If you don't know who you are, you don't know who you are not either. So why are people getting so much immigration from Islamic countries? Because the cultural relativists are in charge, and we should change that. This is the most important message I have. As a matter of fact, it's a socialist, left and liberal perspective that is more about their ideology than really what's concerned of the people living in a nation. That kills almost every nation where they are in charge. You know, we are a country of farmers, of fishermen, and they are, for their environmental ideology, killing our farmers, buying them out, wanting them to leave. And when it comes to other issues, like we spoke about before, immigration, we have indeed these articles in our constitution, and we are not the only ones that says that international treaties or European laws are above our national constitution, which means that we are not allowed to change and toughen up our immigration policy, which should have happened. And we have enormous problems with immigrants. Once again, not all immigrants are criminals, but they are overrepresented in all the statistics of crime, of rape, of whatever you think about in the Netherlands, and that should stop, and the people want to stop it. And one of the reasons that the European Union lacks credibility within the people of the Netherlands, and once again in many nations in Europe, is that they are giving us, we are unable to change the policies that we need. And maybe you allow me to say some words about Russia as well. It's clear to everybody, also to me and my party, that there is only one aggressor, and that is Mr. Putin, who acts like a totalitarian criminal. But don't underestimate the amount of people in our nations, like the Netherlands, who are against the policies of sanctions. Why? Not because they are against sanctions in general, because they know that sanctions towards Russia, sanctions have never stopped a war. Sanctions have never brought peace. If we sanctions the European Union, not the Netherlands, but the European Union as a whole sanctions Russia when it became oil. Right? They said we don't want any oil anymore. The Russians, they sold the oil anyway to countries like China, like India, and maybe less, but for a higher price, so they have more profit even. We did not get to the war machine of Putin. They were not hurt. You know who was hurt at the end of the day because Russia, as a reaction, started to boycott gas from Europe? Those are our own people. And if you are looking for ways to get more support, and of course I understand it, I even applaud it, then this is not the way to go. Because if people are hurt with their utility bills, with the energy bills, with their grocery shops, and they know why that is the case, they will think about their own interests first. And that is not asocial or wrong. This is the perspective of the most of the common people in Europe and in my country. And that should be taken into account. Of course, everybody wants to help the Ukraine, but let me tell you that there is a limit to that as well. The Dutch State Secretary of Defense said not so long ago in public in the Netherlands that if Holland would be in a war today, they would last for 3 days because we have no firepower anymore. We lack almost everything today. We don't even have tanks anymore. We are leasing 13 tanks from Germany. We have a lack of ammunition. We have nothing. And I believe that the more support you want to give, that at the end of the day we should be able to defend ourselves. And we are not the only ones. There are also other nations, perhaps even the United Kingdom of Germany, who are at a limit on what they can give. And the first priority should be, we should of course in NATO help to strengthen the NATO borders. I mean, the Dutch military are active in Lithuania and Romania, and I'm very positive about that. But at the end of the day, we should be able to defend our own nation. So there are limits in what we can give and help to the Ukraine. Every country should be in charge of its own interest, you know. We had all this European schemes about the Dublin arrangement, and that every country, or if for instance, all the asylum seekers that come to Holland, can only 95% come by land. We only have 2 borders, which is Germany and Belgium. And those are safe countries. So not one of them are actually asylum seekers, but they are migrants, for they came from a country that is safe. Still, the Germans and the Belgians will not take them back because they say, well, sorry, we don't have nothing to do with that. So at the end of the day, unfortunately, we have to protect ourselves. We have to be in charge of our own borders. We have to once again, I'm very much in favor to reinstate Dutch border control with our military police, to get rid of the Schengen Treaty, to make sure that we decide ourselves who is welcome in our nation and not. And if some person from either Syria, Afghanistan or Ethiopia or whatever country comes to our border, for instance, the German-Dutch border, and he has no visa, and he says, I want to have asylum in Holland, we say, come on, you're in Germany, it's a safe country, bye-bye, go away. This is what we should do, because we cannot afford to continue with the numbers that are coming to Holland today. Mostly, by the way, men of the 20s and in their 30s. I mean, the women stay there, and the younger men come to our nations. We should stop it, and we should do it unilaterally. It's the only way. Enough is enough. We cannot absorb more than we have today. A small country like Holland, we have more than 50,000 asylum seekers a year. I mean, they are sleeping outside. We cannot afford, we cannot even manage to give them housing or food or whatever. So we should stop it. And the people are fed up with it. If you want to have more support for that kind of policy, you should stop it now, immediately. The people and the ideology of the people that come to our nations. I mean, we're not talking about Canadians or Americans or Norwegians or Christians. We are talking about people with an Islamic background, Muslims. And like I said, not all Muslims, of course, are bad or wrong people. But we had an institution, a university in Holland and in Germany, leftish liberal institutions, who made a survey among the 1 million Muslims in Holland. And it proved that 70% of the Muslims in Holland said that if they could choose, they would choose Sharia law above our secular law. 10% of those people said that even if necessary, they were willing to use force and violence in the Netherlands, which is 100,000 people, which is twice the amount of the Dutch army. Now, I'm not saying that they will do that tomorrow, but the idea and the mind of the leftists and the liberals who believe that they could assimilate or integrate in a society. I mean, sometimes it happens. Of course, luckily there are very good examples, but often that does not work. So we are facing not only a problem of asylum and immigration, but it's an existential problem to the nature, the identity of our nations. So we should stop, foremost and all, the Islamic immigration to our nations. It's a tough thing to say, but it's true. Never give in, never. And that's the lesson I believe many more citizens in Europe share, because they feel that they are not taken seriously by their government, because their problems they face with immigration, with crime, with the utilities bill, with the groceries, with immigration, whatever you can think of, and they are fed up with it. And we saw the silver lining, maybe I'm the only one with the silver lining, we see some political changes in Europe. We see in Italy a new wave of politics. We saw it, of course, before in Poland, in Hungary. We see in Spain a party like Vox getting stronger. We see results of patriotic parties in the Parliament of France. We see other parties, my party in Holland. So there is a way to be positive. The only thing people should do is, at the end of the day, never give in. Not only to the mullahs, but also not to their own national regime that don't take into account what their needs really are, and get up and say they want change, vote accordingly.
We are the opposition of Brussels. We try to be the majority of Brussels. So it takes some years, but we are working on it. So we will make more and more closer and closer cooperation and friendship. And finally, these guys who are just inside will change everything in Brussels, as Donald Trump did in the United States.